Understanding of volcanic processes could be improved by images, photography, and videos. The shape of volcanoes and their craters provide critical information on their formation and eruptive history. Techniques applied to photographs, photogrammetry show promise and utility in correlating shapes change to volcanic background and eruption activity. Changes in volcano shape, morphology that occur with major eruptions are quantifiable, but background volcanic activity manifesting as small volume explosions and crater wall collapse can also cause changes in morphology and are not well qualified. A team of Penn State researchers studied Telica volcano, a persistently active volcano in western Nicaragua, to both observe and quantify small-scale intra-crater change associated with background and eruptive activity. Geologists consider Telica persistently active because of its high levels of seismicity and volcanic degassing, and it erupts on less than 10-year time periods. The team used direct observations of the crater, photographic observations from 1994 to 2017, and photogrammetric techniques on photos collected between 2011 and 17 to analyze changes at Telica in the context of summit crater formation and eruptive processes. They used a structure from motion SFM photogrammetric technique to construct 3D models from 2D images. They also used point cloud referencing, a method used to measure change between photo sampling periods to compare to 3D models, providing a quantitative measure of change in crater morphology. They reported their results in geochemistry, geophysics, and geosystems. They said photos of the crater were taken as part of a multidisciplinary study to investigate Telica volcano's persistent activity. This is what Casey Hannigan, lead author of the study, explains, saying images were collected from our collaborators to make observations of the crater's features, such as the location and number of fumaroles or regions of volcanic degassing in the crater. For time periods that had enough photos, SFM was used to create 3D models of the crater. We could then compare the 3D models between time periods to quantify any changes. And using the SFM derived 3D models and point cloud differencing allowed them to quantify how the crater changed through time. We could see the changes by visually looking at the photos and employing SFM, and we could quantify how much change had occurred at Telica. This is what Peter Lafemina, Associate Professor of Geophysics at Penn State Department of Geosciences, says. This is one of the first studies to look at changes in crater morphology associated with background and eruptive activity over a relatively long time span, almost a 10-year period. Telica's morphological changes were then compared to the timing of eruptive activity to investigate the processes leading to crater formation and eruption. Volcanoes erupt when pressure builds beyond a breaking point. At Telica, two mechanisms for triggering eruptions have been hypothesized. These were widespread mineralization with the underground hydrothermal systems that seals the system and superficial blocking of the vent by landslides and rock fall from the crater walls. Both mechanisms could lead to increases in pressure and then eruption, according to the researchers. One question was whether or not covering the vents on the crater floor could cause pressure buildup, and if that would cause an explosive release of this pressure of the vent if the vent were sufficiently sealed. Comparing the point cloud differencing results and the photographic observations indicate that the vent infill by mass wasting from the crater walls was not likely a primary mechanism for sealing of the volcanic system prior to eruption. They said we found that material from the crater wall does fall on the crater floor, filling the eruptive vent, but at the same time we see active fumaroles, which are vents in the crater walls, where high temperature gases as steam are emitting. The fumaroles remain active even though the talus from the crater walls covered the vents. This suggests that at least the deeper magma hydrothermal system is not directly sealed by landslides. The researchers further note that crater wall material collapse is spatially correlated to where degassing is concentrated, and that small eruptions blow out this fallen material from the crater floor. They suggest these changes sustained a crater shape similar to other summit craters that formed by collapse into an evacuated magma chamber. What we found is that during the explosions, Eureka is throwing out a lot of material that came from the crater walls, said Filmora. In the absence of magmatic eruptions, a crater is forming through this background process of crater wall collapse, and the regions of fumarole activity collapse preferentially. And this is from Penn State University. And it was by Catherine Hannigan and colleagues, Morphology Associated with Volcanic Activity at Eureka Volcano, in Geochemistry, Geophysics, and Geosystems, by Penn State University, Patricia Craig, on phys.org. If you'd like to join me on my Patreon account, you will hear content not covered by mainstream media. These riveting stories will be based on my research, and I will state my opinions and give my personal insight on diverse and controversial subjects and world events not covered by mainstream media, and not supported by YouTube guidelines. So whatever I have on my Patreon, most of those will not be on my YouTube channel. Please consider becoming a member today. More of the most significant and important videos will be on my Patreon channel. Your support helps me to continue my research and keeps this YouTube channel alive. And we depend on your support, your generous charity, because we help economically challenged families here in Athens, Greece, in Kapota, and we also help the young generation with university tuition and the community around our church. Thank you.